Welcome to E Squared Emporium for all things AP Psychology. Today, we're going to talk about James Marsh's identity status, and it's teen or adolescent identity development. So, James Marcia comes on the back of Erik Erikson and goes into the teen or adolescent time period and really looks at it deeply and says there's four specific stages that he sees that happen during this time that may or may not happen to different people during this time. It's based on crisis, and crisis is not a bad thing. Crisis means that you are exploring your world. You're having an identity crisis sounds bad, but it's actually good to have an identity crisis according to this theory, that you're going to go explore different identities and that you're going to go try on different things. Maybe you're going to go to the debate club. Maybe you're going to try being a jock for a while. Maybe you try theater. Maybe you try different languages. You try on different careers. You go maybe part-time work at different jobs or you internship. These are all examples of how to solve the crisis. So it's actually a good thing. It pushes us into action. And then commitment has to do with when do you finally lock in and say, yes, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a pediatrician. I'm going to go to space camp. Like, when do you actually lock in and say, I'm going to work for the family business? So, how much have you explored your world and explored your identity? And how much have you committed to an identity that is yours, not one that comes from your friends or your family or your culture, but one that is yours? Now, this includes your view on politics, your view on jobs, on religion and philosophy, on intimate relationships, on friendships and gender roles. All of that can be a part of this crisis and commitment phase. Let's look at the four in detail. So the identity achievement stage means that this student has undergone a lot of exploration, maybe since middle school. You've been to a lot of different places, you've researched a lot, you've explored. Maybe you've gone to summer camps and explored, maybe you've interned and explored, and you have now made a commitment, but you've made a commitment from a place of, I have seen a lot. You haven't seen everything, but you've seen a lot. And maybe you've traveled, maybe you've read, you've just done a lot in these different areas, and you have ruled out the things you don't want to be. And you're starting to say, yeah, maybe I want to be an engineer. Maybe I am interested in the environment, and you're willing to make a commitment. So we think of this in terms of making a commitment to college or making a commitment to your career, but it's really making a commitment to your identity. These students tend to have high self-esteem. They tend to be very achievement motivated, and they have more emotional stability. So less neurosis, less anxiety, less depression. We do see a lot of identity achievement happening in AP classes. Identity diffusion is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. So this is someone who is not exploring or committing to an identity. Maybe they gave up in middle school, maybe they've given up in high school. They're just not interested. You can't really get them to join any clubs with you. They're not interested in joining any sports with you. They don't really care about what's happening after school. They're just kind of blasé about everything. They're not very centered, not really trying to find an identity, often confused about who they are or what they want, often very dissatisfied and unable to find an identity that feels right. They might feel very lost. So they may be socially isolated and withdrawn because sometimes they come across as a little negative too, a little pessimistic. You've probably been around these students. They're like, this is boring. This is so stupid. Like, everything is stupid and boring, and they don't really want to do anything. They want to do nothing. So identity foreclosure means you've made a commitment already, which sounds like a good thing, but you haven't really explored any alternatives. Typically, this is based on either parents, grandparents, family, or some kind of cultural pressure. All girls have to be this, all boys have to be that. Everyone in my family is an engineer. I have to be one too. Everybody in my family goes into the military. I just have to pick which branch because I know I'm going into the military. Lots of experiences like that. So, like a bank foreclosing on a house a little early, right? You have foreclosed on your entire future a little bit early. You have closed in on your career, your college, your everything. Your parents want you to go to the same college that they went to, and you didn't really get to explore any other colleges. It really wasn't an option. You were forced to foreclose. So it's a premature settling on an identity provided by others, and not allowing you to explore all your other options and only selecting what your culture or your parents, your family structure wants you to be. And you've just said, okay, I'm going to go do the family business, even though I don't really understand it and I really wanted to be a dancer, but I'm going to go do this. And the last one is identity moratorium. Now, a moratorium sounds like kind of a scary negative word, but it actually just means you put a pause. A moratorium is just pausing on something, taking a break, stepping back and thinking about it before you push ahead. So, this is actually a really good place to be. This is like you have all the options in the world. This could be taking a gap year. This could be still exploring. You have not committed yet. Maybe you want to go do some internships. Maybe you're still actively exploring clubs. Maybe you're actively exploring alternatives. Maybe you're actively exploring philosophy and politics. So you're going to still explore different roles. You have not locked into your identity 100% yet. You have not locked in and said, these are my hardcore beliefs and values. You're still finding yourself, but you are exploring. And that's what makes this positive. You are trying to move forward. So you're trying to find your own identity without being locked into that firm commitment yet. Eventually, you do need to make a commitment, but you have some time. So it's a period of experimentation and exploration before settling in on a definitive self concept. So this one has high levels of exploration and low levels of commitment. And I just wanted to say, we sometimes see as adults what we might call a midlife crisis may not be a midlife crisis. You may actually be going from achievement to moratorium back to achievement again. Maybe you did 20 years in a particular career and you woke up and said, I don't really want to be a dermatologist any longer. And so then you put yourself back into moratorium. You go back to school or you start studying, you start looking around, maybe you take a sabbatical from your job and you go explore. And then maybe you do another 10 or 20 years in a second or third career. Very common. So it's not like you only lock in once. This could slide at different times during your life, but we tend to see it most important, most crucial during teen and adolescent stage. So, there are six major factors that influence our identity when we are teenagers and how we develop our identity. So, the family is obviously a very big one. We spend the majority of our time there with our family, and they have a huge influence. So, this could be the values of the parents, the expectations of the parents, and parenting styles, which we already talked about. The social environment where you grow up, where you go to school, can also be very important. Your peers, your school culture, the culture that you live in. So anything that you interact with, social groups, community, this could be even church community for the peers your age in the church community. So how do the individuals around you perceive themselves, and do you adopt their behaviors? Now, your own personal experiences are going to be different than everybody else's. They're going to be different than your friends. Have you moved to different places? Have you visited different places? Have you been to museums? What languages do you speak? Have your parents gotten divorced or have they remarried? Are there major life events that maybe your friends didn't go through? Maybe there's major achievements. Maybe you got awards for sports or for debate or spelling bee. Maybe there's challenges and traumas, and all of this profoundly impacts your identity formation. Your gender role can also impact your identity development, and that can depend on the culture you grow up in too. Society has expectations. Men will do this, women will do that. And you can fight against those expectations, of course. You can declare your own independence from those expectations and those assumptions and those stereotypes. But within your culture, and sometimes within your religious belief, there are gender expectations from society that can influence how you form your identity. And socioeconomic status is money. How did you feel about money growing up? Did you have plenty of money? Did you feel poor? Did you feel rich? Did you feel middle class? Maybe after a divorce, there was a change in your economic status. So, social class, economic background, that kind of thing, that can all influence what opportunities were available for you. Maybe you had to say no to some things because it cost too much and your family couldn't afford it. Or maybe you had to earn the money yourself. Maybe you weren't the first kid at school to get a car. Maybe it wasn't a brand new car. So, all of these challenges can establish your sense of self, and they can also change your choice of major, and where you're going to college, in terms of scholarships and so forth, grants. And then the last one is individual values and beliefs. What are your personal values? What are your personal morals and beliefs? How do you feel about the world? Do you think the world is getting better? Do you think the world is getting worse? Do you think you can save the world? Do you not even care about the world? So morals and beliefs can be tied to religion. They could just be tied into your philosophical beliefs about the world. They definitely contribute to your unique identity. So then which of these 6 factors do you think had the biggest impact on you as you've gone through high school? Which one do you think made the biggest impact on your identity development? And now you're ready for class.